If we're trying to survive, we're trying to do well, we're trying to thrive in whatever market we're in, we have to know what success is, what it looks like, and a dashboard is the only way to do that. And like I said, I most often recommend a line graph. So if we have a really good dashboard system, then we're already a few steps ahead. So we can look at something and it's very simple on a line graph. That's what I love about it. And this is why you've heard the phrase, I'm sure, up and to the right. That's what we want on a line graph, is up and to the right, assuming we're graphing something that we want more of, like money or customers or growth or whatever it may be. Okay, so if we have a really good dashboard system, which is rule 0, then our first rule is if something is succeeding, in other words, it's going up and to the right, we want to find out why and do more of that.
This is the Being Coachable podcast with your host, Jill Chappie. Get ready to challenge your assumptions, expand your thinking, and walk away with concrete steps to help you level up your leadership, business acumen, and personal growth. It's time to get coachable.
Hello and welcome. This is episode 4 of the Being Coachable podcast. And our topic today is the 2 basic rules of business. So I want to talk to you about some things that I've observed over the years with many different business leaders and what they run into in terms of their ability to get through key business problems. So if you're watching this, you probably lead a team or you work in a business, corporation, let's say, and you have certain business problems. This is why you have a job. Is because there are problems in business, and these problems lend themselves to being solved. And so I want to help you think through, how do you solve some of these key problems in business? So today we're talking about the 2 basic rules of business so you can quickly determine what your next strategic move should be with regard to the big ticket items that you are currently facing in your business. So my name is Jill Chappie. I've been an executive coach for 24 years, and I largely work with technology companies, mostly VP level and above in technology companies, and honestly, mostly SaaS companies, some occasional other types of companies, and including some consumer. But one of the things that I've gotten really good at in my work is what I'll call root cause analysis. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's finding the why for things. Root cause analysis, this is the technical term for it, to determine what's causing something and why. And I've been able to help many people successfully navigate some pretty tough business problems. So I want to share that knowledge with you today so that you have the ability to get through some of these tough business challenges too. And they are basic rules. When you hear them, you won't be surprised. It won't shock you, but also you may not be using them. And if you're not using them, that's what we want to address. So let's go over some of these important rules. These 2 rules are important because without them, you suffer from making bad decisions. And I don't want you suffering. I don't like anybody to suffer. I talked about early on that my name rhymes with happy. And so I want people to be happy, and I want you to be happy, and I want you to be doing well in your business. And when you make bad decisions, you tend to suffer. So let's not do that. Right? So let's make good decisions. Let's get through problems. And I think these 2 rules will help you. I've also found that if companies don't follow these 2 key rules, that they will run into this problem of failing at what they're doing. And so I don't want to see that for you, of course. So let's talk about what the first rule is. So the first rule of business is if an area is succeeding, do more of that, whatever it is. But you have to find out why the area is succeeding. More on this later. So this necessitates having a really good dashboard system. So if you don't have a good dashboard right now, I don't know how you would even determine how something is doing, if it's successful, or if you should do more of it or less of it. So I'm going to start with really basic, rock bottom. So this is rule 0. Have a really good dashboard with metrics shown in the way that you need to see them. And then my preference is a line graph for that. Lots more on this in other podcasts to come. But if you want to make it really simple, put your key stat on a line graph, look at it over time, and do that for anybody in your business, any team member that has a key stat that you can graph on a line graph. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. And that is absolutely true in business. Here's the fact of the matter. We're trying to make money, right? That's what business is all about. You're trying to make money so people can feed their families, your teams can have good jobs, etc. So if we're trying to survive, we're trying to do well, we're trying to thrive in whatever market we're in, we have to know what success is, what it looks like, and a dashboard is the only way to do that. And like I said, I most often recommend a line graph. So if we have a really good dashboard system, then we're already a few steps ahead. So we can look at something and it's very simple on a line graph. That's what I love about it. And this is why you've heard the phrase, I'm sure, up and to the right. That's what we want on a line graph is up and to the right, assuming we're graphing something that we want more of, like money or customers or growth or whatever it may be. Okay. So if we have a really good dashboard system, which is rule zero, then our first rule is if something is succeeding, in other words, it's going up and to the right, we want to find out why and do more of that. Okay. Our second rule is if an area is failing or even just staying flat, because flat doesn't equate to survival in this world, right? We want to find out why and we want to change it. So, very simple. Something's going well, you keep it and do more of it. Something's going poorly, you find out why and you change it. Okay. So, what I find companies doing a lot of is a couple of these big errors. So, here are the big errors: taking something successful and changing it, or sometimes people call this change for the sake of change. If you happen to be in a technology company where there's a lot of change all the time, I'm sorry, first of all, but if you're doing a lot of change management and you find things being changed for no reason, a great example I had recently, a company I work with, they had a comp plan that worked very well. They changed the comp plan. Why? It was for the sales team, of course. Why change the comp plan? It had been working. They got top talent, things were going well, and they changed the comp plan. Strange thing to do. And they noticed the stats start going down. So there you go. There's a perfect example of a big error you can make. So taking something successful and changing it is error number one, or seeing something unsuccessful, something that's not working, and not changing it. Now, here's an example of that one. So let's say you have a pilot project, or sometimes people call it a tiger team, whatever you want to call it, but you're doing something that's new. It's not something you've done before. So, whatever that thing is that you haven't done before, you're doing this new thing, you've got people working on it, and let's say it's just not going. Now, what I've seen people do sometimes is they dump more money into that tiger team or that problem area. And they say, oh, yeah, great, let's do more of this thing. That would be a violation of rule number two. So, let's not do that. So, take something unsuccessful and keep it, right?
Are you hitting a wall as a leader? Do you need an outside perspective to gain clarity and direction? Jill Chappie has over 20 years of experience as an executive coach, helping leaders get unstuck and achieve their goals. She offers straight talk combined with empathy and humor to challenge your assumptions, expand your thinking, reveal your blind spots, and equip you with concrete action steps. If you're ready to level up your leadership and get coachable, click on Leadership Assessment at becoachable.com and then email to schedule your readout. Cost is $99 to get your results. Invest in yourself and your growth. You'll walk away feeling informed, empowered, and ready to implement change. Let's get coachable.
So, here's a big case study for you that demonstrates these two key business rules. So, I had a VP who was running a business unit that was making about 10 million in revenue per month and wanted to double it. So you say, wow, 10 million a month, that's really pretty awesome. Yes, this was a very large company. So this was a VP running a business unit in a very large company, okay? And the revenue was about 10 million a month. So what he decided to do was do a marketing analysis and take a look at marketing, determine all the different channels that they were marketing in. This is all the different ways that you're doing marketing, right? It can be email campaigns, it can be ads, it can be whatever it is, right? So he took a look at marketing because he was the GM over this part of the business. And he wanted to determine what was working currently because, of course, 10 million, it's true, is not bad. So, hey, let's take a look what's working and let's double down on it, right? So, what he did is he found a couple channels that were working really well and then one that was working spectacularly well and was converting at over 20%. But the volume wasn't high enough. So, he doubled down on that particular marketing channel and then doubled down on some of the others that were working pretty well. So, he checked all the channels, doubled down on anything that was working. So put more money into those areas that were working. Why? Because they were bringing back money essentially. So it's what we call a return on investment, right? You invest $1, you get back $1.25. That's a good investment. So anything over 20% in terms of conversion on marketing, great. So he did all this doubling down. Now, here's what happened. So he checked all these channels, doubled down on all the ones that were working, and did rule number two also. This was a person being coached by me at the time. Rule number two, which was there were some channels that were not working at all. So not converting or only converting at 1%, like not a good return on investment, right? Especially if they were expensive channels. So took a look at that and said, all right, let me figure out which channels I want to proceed with and which ones I want to change. So pretty rapidly did about 150% growth. So went up to 15 million a month. Pretty nice, right? Okay. So now, as soon as he hit that revenue number, it was very interesting because he drew the eye of the GM over the larger division. So now all of a sudden, the GM of the larger division is saying, hey, what are you doing over there? Because all of a sudden there's this growth, right? So they started using his marketing tactics in other parts of the company. Unfortunately, it did not produce the same results. Why not? Well, because the consumers in the other divisions were different parts of the business. So some of the channels slowed, which brings up rule number 2 again, right? Something there wasn't working. So a better idea is to look at each channel for each business specifically, make sure you know exactly what works in each part of the business. What works for apples doesn't necessarily work for oranges. Now, I'm hoping as I'm talking through this that you're already thinking of areas of your business where you've either failed to apply rule 1 or failed to apply rule 2, or you have done that and have been successful, either rule number 1 or rule number 2. So, here's the thing that I want to point out. If you're doing rule number 1 and you're becoming successful, you are going to draw attention from other people and they're going to ask you what you're doing that's successful. It may not apply to their business though. And sometimes they're also going to try to convince you that what you are doing that is successful is not in fact successful. So many of you may have run into this as well. So this is like oppression, basically. People go after something successful and they try to make it not successful. So that happens too. But this is why a good dashboard is so key. Because think of it this way, you can do a fantastic business analysis. If all you have to do is you have to look back a few months. Let's say if your trends are going down, so down and to the right instead of up and to the right, and you just look back a few months and you say, what did we change right there? And you go to your marketing team and say, hey, did we change a channel there? Or do we invest something differently there? Did we hire a different person? What occurred right there on the graph? Now, if you're really good and you're really organized, you have a list anytime you make a big change. I mean, you don't have to record every little change that happens in the business because that would be exhausting. But anytime you make a big change, just put a little note on your dashboard or on your graph, or you can even keep a separate spreadsheet. March 1st, changed channel 3 of marketing to X number of dollars, increase of X%. That way, when you match it up with your graph, you can see what occurred at that time. So if you change something and it made things go worse, you can change it back to the way that it was before when things were going well. Or if you change something and it went better, you can find out why, what was the change that made things go better, and then you can do more of that. Now, these are pretty simple rules of business, aren't they? If something's going well, do more of it. If something's not going well, change it, right? You think, well, these are really simple rules of business. But a CEO that I work with said it best, I think. He said, if you can explain something to me like I'm in kindergarten, it's probably going to work. And that's the truth of it. Also, I like to boil things down for people so that they can think with it, right? So, how do you think with this information? How do you make it applicable to you? Well, you make it applicable by making it simple and understandable. So, what I want you to do is take a look at something in your business, determine if something is going poorly or well, right? Now, you might say, but I've got this huge business. How do I splice it up into different areas? Do I need to look at my marketing separate from my sales? Depends on how big your business is or what part you own. But let's say you're a talent acquisition team and you run a talent acquisition team, right? So you're the VP of talent acquisition, which means you're hiring people, you're recruiting, right? You're getting good people into the business. Now, you could easily have a pretty simple dashboard for that. You would have, let's say, number of college fairs and touches people you talk to. So number of people talked to in a week. You could have then the number of people who reached to interview. You could have number of interviews. You can put all this on a dashboard and you can see up and down, et cetera. So you see this trend in a nice line graph. And then you can see what's working and what's not. So for example, you see on your graph, oh, we went to this one college fair and it netted so many interviews for us. And you just see this big spike on your graph, ba-bam. Well, that's an example of something that you would want to say, hey, that's a successful thing we did. And you note it down. Let's make sure we go to that college fair again, right? So you've got to think about what are the key things that cause success in your business? What are the key things that cause problems? And don't change just for the sake of change because something isn't working, or don't change because something is working. Those are the keys. I'm sure this all makes sense to you. It's pretty simple. But like I said, simple doesn't mean it's always followed. Some of us don't follow the simple rules of life, and we therefore pay the price. So I want you to follow these simple rules of business so that you can continue to grow and be successful. All right. So now my challenge to you today is, again, look at areas of your business where you can double down on something that's working really well, or areas of your business where you need to change something that just truly isn't working. Maybe you need to scrap it. And sometimes we have to get permission to scrap something, in which case, write the business case. Show the line graph, see what's not working, and say, hey, when we made this change, things went worse. So let's revert it. Let's go back to when things were working well. All right. So if you want more great business information like this and advice for you in your role, please follow me on LinkedIn. You can follow me at Coachability or at Jill Chappie, which is my name. You saw that at the beginning. Or you can, of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you are watching me here on YouTube, you can subscribe down below. We do release podcasts every week. We also have other upcoming items for you, including a course that will be a 5-part on managing a team. So all of that is coming in the near future. But for now, watch our podcast, follow me on LinkedIn, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. Thanks for being with us for episode 4 today. Again, these were the 2 basic rules of business, and I hope it helped. See you again soon.
Thanks for tuning in to the Being Coachable podcast. I hope you found value in today's conversation. If you have any follow-up questions or want to continue the discussion, visit our website at becoachable.com and click on Contact. Join our mailing list to receive offers for reduced cost leadership assessments and team building sessions. You can also find show notes, past episode transcripts, and more resources on the podcast tab. I'll catch you on the next episode as we continue to maximize our potential and get coachable.